Show tonight. I want to thank you guys for joining in because we've got a lot of news coming out from the left-wing media, from conservative media, and there is so much to cover here concerning the latest updates of the war in Iran. And of course, I want to know your thoughts concerning all of this. So as always, let me know what you're thinking in the chat. Of course, you can always email me further at freedom@equallyyokeshow.com. And for those that are joining us, and this is your first time here, of course, we want to keep the dialogue open to those folks who haven't joined us, who have questions concerning this. We'll do our best to answer as many as we can as we go throughout the show. We have a lot to cover, but concerning the Iranian regime that is toppling, the left calling this action illegal, protests against this action in the streets. And of course, there are celebrations, and the rejoicing continues over the death of Ali Khomeini, the Ayatollah Khomeini. And so as we're looking at all of this stuff, we are also on the heels of sleeper cells beginning to act, especially what we saw in Austin, Texas today, which is absolutely tragic. We're going to look at some of those details here. And do we really believe concerning this strike on a school was conducted by the U.S. or Israel? We're going to be looking at all of that and more on this broadcast. So let's start first with the operational update on Epic Fury. This is President Donald J. Trump today announcing this update. And so we'll take a look at this, and then we will continue further on the rest of the show as this sort of breaks it out into what we are going to be talking about. Let's take a look.
Over the past 36 hours, the United States and its partners have launched Operation Epic Fury, one of the largest, most complex, most overwhelming military offensives the world has ever seen. Nobody's seen anything like it. We have hit hundreds of targets in Iran, including Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now it was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building, all in a matter of literally minutes. Iran's formerly supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, is dead. This wretched and vile man had the...
By the way, it's reminiscent of when he talked about the death of al-Baghdadi and the way that he announced it. I was laughing because of the comedic, who's the guy? I forget his name. My world in comedy is not even that developed, but otherwise that guy who's, he's a very well-known guy. He starts mocking Trump in his voice. And this is almost that similar manner. But people don't understand the depth of what actually just happened here concerning the death of the Khomeini. Now, he is the supreme leader of Iran, and the people under this Iranian regime have been under a government that suppresses and does not allow them the freedoms which they had prior to this regime under the Shah. And so we're going to be looking a little bit at that because there's a lot of Democrats who are talking about the fact that they don't know what this is about. They don't know. It's like they're playing the dumb game here. There's no objective, they begin to say. We're going to be looking at Representative Sarah Jacobs from California who's talking about this, but she's being willfully ignorant here. She pretends to know the history. She pretends to talk about, all this stuff. We're going to go in that clip in a moment, but we're also going to be taking a look at more. Let's continue on with this clip.
Blood of hundreds and even thousands of Americans on his hands, and was responsible for the slaughter of countless thousands of innocent people all across many countries. Last night, all over Iran, the voices of the Iranian people could be heard cheering and celebrating in the streets when his death was announced. The entire military command is gone as well, and many of them want to surrender into saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. We have very strong objectives. They could have done something 2 weeks ago, but they just couldn't get there. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case. But America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself. Our resolve, and likewise that of Israel, has never been stronger. America is now, again, the richest, most powerful nation in the world by far. But the only reason we enjoy the quality of life that we do and the freedom and security is we have done things that others are unable to do. But it's because of warriors who are willing to lay down their lives to do battle with our enemies. And they do battle better than anybody. An Iranian regime armed with long-range missiles and nuclear weapons would be a dire threat to every American. We cannot allow a nation that raises terrorist armies to possess such weapons that would allow them to extort the world to their evil will. Not going to let it happen. We're not happening to us, and we're not going to let it happen to others. The United States has the strongest military the world has ever seen. I rebuilt our military in my first term. There's never been a military like we possess. And frankly, there's nobody even close, but we are now using that military for good. We want to have it for good purpose. We're undertaking this massive operation not merely to ensure security for our own time and place, but for our children and their children, just as our ancestors have done for us many, many years ago. This is the duty and the burden of a free people. These actions are right and they are necessary to ensure that Americans will never have to face a radical, bloodthirsty terrorist regime armed with nuclear weapons and lots of threats. For almost 50 years, these wicked extremists have been attacking the United States while chanting the slogan, "Death to America" or "Death to Israel," or both. They are the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. We are the world's greatest and most powerful nation, so we can do something about what they do. These intolerable threats will not continue any longer. I once again urge the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, and police to lay down your arms and receive full immunity or face certain death. It will be certain death. Won't be pretty. I call upon all Iranian patriots who yearn for freedom to seize this moment, to be brave, be bold, be heroic, and take back your country. America is with you. I made a promise to you, and I fulfilled that promise. The rest will be up to you, but we'll be there to help. Thank you. God bless you to our incredible warriors, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Now, I want you guys to vote in the poll that we just conducted here, and a majority of you, as of right now, are saying no, you do not appreciate this response or this type of action. You do not approve of this action against Iran. And so far we have 66 votes. I want you guys to continue voting. If you haven't voted, please vote. And also subscribe to the podcast while you're at it. This is the Equally Yoked Show. Email me your thoughts, freedom@equallyyokedshow.com. We're going to be looking at further as to this situation here. Now, this action conducted by the U.S. and Israel has toppled the regime, the Ayatollah, completely dismantled, completely decapitated. Now you have other leaders who are sworn in to this position. And so as we begin to look at some of the headlines here that are coming in, this is something that Trump told ABC, basically saying, I got him before he got me. Now, if you remember, the Iranian government tried to assassinate Donald Trump in 2024, Iranian-linked plot to assassinate him here that is referenced in the article. Of course, Trump also says that the U.S. may continue Iranian strikes for 5 weeks, maybe longer than that. So it says, the quote is, the military intends to sustain its strikes on Iran for 4 to 5 weeks if necessary. President Trump told the New York Times on Sunday, according to that, it won't be difficult for Israel and the U.S. to maintain intensity of the battle, even as he warned of the possibility of more U.S. casualties. And of course, when there is moments like this, when there's war like this, we see that there are always casualties. And so here's Iran, who's promising revenge as it moves to choose new leaders. So as Supreme Leader Khamenei had final say on all major policies since 1989, he led Iran's clerical establishment and the Revolutionary Guard, the two main centers of power in the government theocracy. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said in a pre-recorded message that a new leadership council had begun its work. Foreign Minister Abbas said a new supreme leader will be chosen in 1 or 2 days. IRGC blamed the U.S. and Israel for starting the war. He said he had spoken to his counterparts in the Gulf countries and urged them to pressure the U.S. and Israel to end it. You have crossed our red line and must pay the price, Iran's parliamentary speaker Mohammed said in a televised address, we will deliver such devastating blows that you yourselves will be driven to beg. The problem is, from the start of this, the strikes have been incredibly mediocre. Their response, I should say. And not only that, are they targeting civilian areas. So keep that in mind as we look at this next piece here. This is reported by BBC, ABC, and many others that are talking about at least 153 dead after reported strike on school, Iran says. Now, there was another article that said 57, so I think that was an initial report. Now they're saying 153, according to the BBC, talking about, and let me see if I can bring you into this article while we look at it, at least 153 people, including children, have died after a reported strike hit a school in southern Iran. According to Iranian officials, Iran has blamed the U.S. and Israel. The U.S. military command said it was looking into reports of the incident, while Israel's military said it was not aware of any IDF operations in the area. The girls' school was located in Minab, near an Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps base, which has previously been target. At least 201 people have been killed in airstrikes in Iran, and 747 hurt since Saturday, the Iranian Red Crescent said. And so here's what's interesting about this. What we've been seeing from these strikes from Iran, these retaliatory strikes, have been on not only just the U.S. bases, but of course to Israel and of course to its neighboring countries. And so there are Iranian, media heads that are saying that Iran has turned against its friends. Okay, it's interesting that when you look at this situation, that Iran, these really weren't the friends of Iran, that they did not care who was a casualty as a result of the U.S. and Israel's operations. Now we're seeing Keir Starmer talk on this matter, that they're sort of beginning to get involved, but not really getting involved. He wants to sort of keep to his stance that he said prior, that the British is not going to get involved. And so we're going to be looking at that in a moment. But who are you really going to believe? Who are the ones that intentionally strike in civilian populated areas where there are no military targets that exist? That is Iran and its proxies. They have done this time and time again. So who are we really going to believe? And some of the Democrats on the left, their top Democrat that they all idolize, Bernie Sanders, always falls into this trap. So we're going to be looking at it in a moment. And of course, Fox 9, Minnesota reports the same, but they say 165 killed. So the BBC reporting 153, 165 according to Fox 9. And so the Iranian girls' school bombed. And so we know that the Islamic religion, and there is and I'll have to find this clip for you, but there is an imam that talks about women being like the animals. And we're going to have to find that for you so we can show you truly what they are. We're going to be looking at their charter in a moment concerning this. And so ABC reporting the same thing. So Bahrain intercepting 61 missiles, 34 drones in Iranian attacks. There's a lot of other information concerning this. So let's see here. Iran is ready for any serious initiative aimed at restoring stability. So Iran's foreign minister Abbas, in a phone call with his Omani counterpart, thanked Muscat for its constructive role in diplomatic efforts to de-escalate tensions in the region, saying Iran is ready for any serious initiative aimed at restoring stability. Now, this is sort of antithetical according to what we just read, where it talks about the response that it will give to the U.S., the retaliatory strikes. So they're saying that they're ready for talks, but they're really ready to show, they're also ready to talk about some serious initiatives to restore stability, because they know that they are not winning this game. This is known. This is known. And so let's continue on here with some of these other top articles here. Now, of course, the AP is reporting this important. Actually, we just read this. This is what I was referring to, that you have crossed our red line, you must pay a price. Now, of course, the NPR, who the UN is reporting this from the UN Secretary General, who's condemning the U.S. and Israeli strikes and Iran's retaliation. Now, if you remember during the war of Gaza, where Hamas conducted October the 7th, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has openly condemned Israel for these actions, for the actions against the Hamas militia, the proxy of Iran. And so we have to go back and remember all of these sort of data points because of what happened during these actions, the retaliatory actions from Israel, where we saw reports, and as Bernie Sanders points out, and let me show you what he points out here on X. And let me pull it up here for you really quick. And so this is Bernie Sanders saying Israel and Saudi Arabia pushed the U.S. to attack Iran. Netanyahu killed, and this is their story. They're trying to shift. They're trying to figure out who to blame here. They're trying to figure and nail down their messaging. But a lot of this is it's all very cohesive, of course, in a sense, because when they begin to shift the narrative, you begin to see other politicians, Democrats, say the same thing. And so here it says Netanyahu killed 72,000 people in Gaza, and mostly women and children. Saudi Arabia is a brutal dictatorship that allows no opposition. These are leaders who want to bring freedom to Iran. Does anyone really believe that? Look, the reality is the number that he's giving here is reported by the Gaza Health Ministry. Who is the Gaza Health Ministry ran by? Hamas themselves. We know that Israel is the one that was reporting on some of the casualties that has happened, and they have even looked into strikes where I think there was a rocket that hit a building that destroyed like a part of a building or something like that during this war, this intense time. And of course, with the Gaza Health Ministry ran by Hamas, and ultimately what we see how Iran conducts its media coverage is especially when they black out the web. We know that they're trying to hide, especially when the protesters were in the streets, and they were going against the regime. We saw that they were killing thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And this is the sad truth, is that the Democrats and the left and some of the liberals that continue to fall into this trap by Hamas, fall into this trap by Iran. And we even looked at a CNN interview talking about this, where they don't want to, confront the facts and the evidence that the CNN interviewer does with one of these top leaders top Hamas leaders. So it's just astounding that we have politicians like Bernie Sanders, who still has a credible voice, according to Democrats, according to many other people. It's just terrible. And so you can obviously see some of the comments expressing their frustration and, of course, their approval of what is happening regarding this very action. The celebrations, they're not having it. They're not going to, again, they're not going to have it. They know the type of oppression that they were under, especially the women. And now this is a liberation for the Iranian people, should they seize this moment in order to conduct their own regime change from within. And so Kamala Harris, of course, we've covered this on yesterday's broadcast, that she's talking about Trump dragging the U.S. into a war with that the American people don't want. And of course, others like Mamdani calling this war illegal, or calling these strikes on Iran illegal, right? An illegal war of aggression, bombing cities, killing civilians, again, falling into the trap, opening a new theater of war. Americans do not want this. Same messaging. Ilhan Omar saying the same thing, unilaterally dragging this nation into an illegal and unjustified war. Things to say about Ilhan anyway, we'll withhold. And of course, Secretary Pete Hegseth, what we were covering last night, this was overnight on President Trump's orders, the Department of War announced or commenced Operation Epic Fury, the most lethal, most complex, most precise aerial operation in history. The Iranian regime had their chance, yet refused to make a deal. This was common to this situation, where they continued to refuse to make a deal. They wanted to advance their own operations in building nuclear warheads to continue enriching. And unfortunately, this didn't end well. Unfortunately for them, fortunate for us that this didn't end well for them. And we have people, especially some in the chat, some in the U.S. that are protesting against this action conducted by the U.S. and Israel. So there's, again, a conflicting message here. And now we are looking at the poll. I just thought I'd look over for a moment. 261 voting, 262 voting so far, 52% say yes. So there's almost a split. Almost a split right down the middle concerning this. So continue to vote in the poll concerning this question. Do you approve of this action against Iran? And so going over to one of the clips that I wanted to show you with Sarah Jacobs, which it's just fascinating how we see many of these politicians, have the type of power, have the type of voice that they have. And so we're going to look at this clip here. And she basically says that Trump is the first president stupid enough to help Netanyahu in Iran regime change. But there is, again, the same message from the Trump administration, the same message from many others that are saying this is not about regime change from the outside, but rather to help. Of course, there's more than just what I'm saying here, but to help the Iranian people do it themselves. So here we go. Let's watch this clip.
I mean, I have a lot of questions. I have questions about what the strategy is. I have questions about what the end game is. I have questions about, do they plan on committing American troops on the ground? What do they hope is going to happen? From what I can tell, they have no answers yet on what a strategy is, on, whether or not they have a real end game, on what will happen next. And that's really concerning.
Congresswoman, I want to ask.
So let me just go over to this post here for a moment. This is from Marco Rubio just yesterday. And, I actually thought I had pulled it up. Let me pull it up for you. And boy, you know what? I thought I had it. Anyway, so Marco Rubio went on and basically talked about the reason behind this. And let's see if I can find it really quick, just with a quick search, and I might not be able to find this, but otherwise, Yeah, I'm probably not going to find it immediately. However, despite that, the actions conducted by the U.S. Concerning Iran and toppling the regime is, of course, with the constant policies being broken by, of course, with the JCPOA. We've looked at that on yesterday's broadcast, not entirely. We didn't look at all the policy, but however, this is one of the policies that was established back in 2015. JCPOA, the Joint Comprehension Plan here that we looked at, action plan, the fact that they had rules and limits to not enrich uranium beyond 3.67%, I believe, which kept going to, I think the latest number that it's a organization that basically accounts for and analyzed how much they were enriching. I forget the name of it. There's an acronym for it. Anyway, basically we're at 5%. They continue to enrich more uranium. And what the reports that we were hearing from the start, from the first operation, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities, were saying that, hey, look, they're just a couple of weeks away from a nuclear weapon. So we were seeing this coming out of the news, and of course from the administration. And so Trump is the only president that has conducted such an operation as this. But we have Democrats who are saying, well, what is the motive here? Why are we doing this? It seems as though they don't have a grip on politics at all concerning, of course, they don't have any politics or any sort of knowledge on Middle Eastern affairs. And yes, there has been wars, many wars that many presidents, both Democrats and Republicans, have involved themselves in. And of course, Trump as being the first to end this war. And so in the first term, this was his attempt to create peace in the region, which he established the first peace deals with some of the nations with the Abraham Accords. And of course, moving that forward now with the Gaza peace plan. So obviously there was a pause with the Biden administration coming in. And here's one of the reports here from 2024, a scathing report that reveals Biden-Harris admin released dozens of, actually this is related. But anyway, we're also, I'll get to this in a moment, of course, concerning the attack in Austin, Texas. However, what the Biden administration did was unfreeze, I believe it was $6 billion or up to $16 billion to the Iranian regime. And they basically lied and said, well, they're not really going to, they don't have access to all of it. It's only for, humanitarian aid, whatever the reason was. I forget the exact reason, but they were lying because they would turn around and use this money for terrorist actions. And so they completely funded what happened in the October the 7th and everything else, from that point on. So let's continue on a little bit more on this video here.
You about something that your colleagues on the Foreign Affairs Committee, your Republican colleagues on the Foreign Affairs Committee posted on Twitter. They posted this image tonight of Trump. I think we can pull it up. But it says, President Trump is ending the forever war that Iran has waged against America for the last 47 years.
That is a hell of a pretzel to put yourself in.
What is your response to that?
And so that is their statement. A hell of a pretzel. Let's read it again. President Trump is ending the forever war that Iran has waged against America for the last 47 years. They have waged war by continuous threats to American citizens, by the hostages that have been taken back in 1979, and many other instances of Americans being attacked. And of course, there was no real response from America because no president wanted to get involved in this manner to start a regional war of that nature, only with Ronald Reagan coming into place, wanting to and winning on. I think one of his biggest points was to actually get these hostages back. And so let's look at a little bit. Well, let's continue on this video a little bit more, and then we'll continue on here.
Message.
Yeah, I mean, it is completely ridiculous, right? First of all, it makes no sense. Second of all, actually this 47-year war that they're talking about, let's talk about how it started. It started in a large part because the United States went into Iran and did a regime change operation. That is a big reason that led us to this very brutal Islamic regime that's in place now. And so
now what Dwight D. Eisenhower did in 1953, I want to say, was completely different from what happened in 1979 under the people that wanted to remove the Shah themselves. So Dwight D. Eisenhower wanted to install, or actually the monarch that was there, they didn't really have much power. And so when you look at the history concerning this, and this is all this context that she's leaving out, however, she's going to look back and say, this moment is what is like, almost as if it's all Trump's fault, really, but because they want everything to be Trump's fault. However, they are looking at this time in history, leaving out context in particular concerning 1979 about the dispersion of, which is the diaspora, is the term that Iranians would use concerning 1979. And so what they did, and they instilled this as we looked at in yesterday's broadcast concerning religion, concerning their fulfillment of the Islamic faith. And we're going to tie this in a little bit here. We're going to play a little more of this until I think it's enough from this clip. However, we're going to be looking at the covenant here, the Islamic charter, concerning a very specific thing that is almost prophetic in nature. Well, I wouldn't say prophetic in nature. I think it's just telling you who they are, actually, who they have always been.
If anything, it's highlighting the fact that we don't know what actually is going to happen after we do these kinds of regime change operations. You're likely to get a more hardline regime, a security vacuum, potentially civil war. And the idea that they're saying that this is ending a forever war, when I think the entirety of the American public can see that it is in fact starting another one, despite President Trump promising not to do that, is kind of preposterous.
I wanted to ask you a question about the politics and the split within MAGA and the MAGA world around these strikes. Because Donald Trump, one of the things that he did was he campaigned on ending wars and promising not to start any new wars. I mean, I would probably argue is the most central tenet that distinguished him from anyone else. His acolytes at the time were saying Kamala Harris will get you into war, Liz Cheney will get you into war when she was campaigning with Kamala Harris. He has betrayed that. And I'm wondering why Republicans are going along with that betrayal, knowing that he promised the American people no more new wars. And here we are.
Well, listen, I can tell you that I've been hearing from folks in my district, and many of them might have given him a chance because they thought he was going to end wars. You know, I represent San Diego, the biggest military community in the country, and so these questions of war and peace are very central to my constituents. They're the ones who pay the price, and a lot of them are saying they regret that vote, that, you know, they feel betrayed. And I think it's incumbent on all of us to say, like, I understand you took him at his word, but let's acknowledge what's happening now, and we welcome you into this coalition to push back against this war.
But this is where a war powers vote becomes a potential problem for Republicans, who they actually have voters who thought that they meant it when they said they were not going to support more wars of choice. And so if this vote happens, do you potentially foresee that some Republicans, aside from Thomas Massie, who, of course, has been at the forefront of pushing for congressional authorization and oversight, would join Democrats on this bill?
Now, we're going to move away from this video because they basically are calling for lawmakers to return to Washington to vote whether to stop further military action. Now, whether they do that or not, who knows? This Congress that we currently have does absolutely nothing. Even with the Epstein files, they do absolutely nothing because they can't seem to agree on anything other than themselves, more particularly with the Democrats, who we've seen their full display during the State of the Union that they don't care about the American people. They'd rather care about anybody else other than Americans, that is, illegals in the country. And so this is who they are. So when we're looking at this is the Hamas or the Islamic faith in their charter and what they, in their articles, you can specifically look at Article 13 that talks about peaceful solutions, initiatives, and international conferences. Because you're seeing the talk about Iran wanting to now come to the table, and let's make a deal. Let's try to, cause, create peace and let's stop this fighting. Let's stop all this. Let's look at here from, this is the Avalon Project, Yale here. And you can look at what they have on this. They put the whole article here, of course, or the whole, not even article, it's the whole charter. And it basically says here. Now, I hope you're in for a little bit of reading. It's not going to be much. And maybe I'll bring you into the, so you can see it. And to read, getting started, it says, initiatives and so-called peaceful solutions and international conferences are in contradiction to the principle of Islamic resistance movement. Already at the start, this is what you hear, that these are ridiculous. They're just dumb. We don't even need to do this, but he says abusing any part of Palestine is abuse directed against part of religion. Nationalism is the Islamic resistance movement. Now, I thought people on the Democrat side, or people that are anti-Christians, they say, well, all these Christian nationalists, look at all these Christian, they just label people with names. I don't even know what the heck they're talking about. They say here, nationalism is the Islamic resistance movement. And these are the same people that also want Sharia law or want Islamic faith to grow, because Islamic faith is an expanding faith. They don't care what part, they will most certainly invade by not even assimilation into any country in order to establish its religion. But it says its members have been fed on that for the sake of hoisting the banner of Allah over their homeland they fight. Allah will be prominent, but most people do not know. And it says here, now and then the call goes out to the convening of an international conference to look for ways of solving the Palestinian question. Some accept, others reject the idea for this or other reason, and one stipulation or more for consent to convening the conference and participating in, knowing the parties consulting the conference their past and present attitudes towards Muslim problems. The Islamic resistance movement does not consider these conferences capable of realizing the demands, restoring the rights of doing justice to the oppressed. These conferences are only ways of setting the infidels in the land of the Muslims as arbitrators, when the infidels do justice to the believers. Now, this is interesting because this is the same type of, rhetoric from Ilhan Omar when she talks about this specific issue, where it's like the playing the victim here. That the attitudes towards Muslim problems, the Islamic resistance movement does not consider these conferences capable of realizing the demands, because there is a problem within this Muslim, and they even acknowledge it themselves with this Islamic resistance movement because of their nationalism, because they are full forward in their religious views. But here, this is a quote here, and it says, "But the Jews will not be pleased with thee, neither the Christians, until you follow their religion. Say, the direction of Allah is the true direction, and verily, if thou follow their desires after the knowledge which hath been given thee, thou shalt find no patron or protector against Allah." In other words, if you become if you convert, which is very difficult to convert out of Islam, Sharia law will take effect and you will be eliminated. There is no solution for the Palestinian question except through jihad. That's their words. Initiatives, proposals, and international conferences are a waste of time and vain endeavors. So when they want to come to the table concerning these issues, it's a waste of time. The Palestinian people know better than to consent to having their future rights and fate toyed with, as in said in the honorable hadith, the people of Syria and Allah's lash in his land, he wreaks his vengeance through them against whomsoever he wishes among his slaves. It is unthinkable that those who are double-faced among them should prosper over the faithful. They will certainly die out of grief and desperation. And I'm going to end it there. So this is absolutely, and you can even go on, and all this is very important, very interesting to know and understand about the Islamic faith and the fundamentals of Islam. This is exactly what it is. You can see it on full display as to what the Iranian government is doing and what they seek to do, and the lies that they continue to tell the media in order to have their way, because it's for the sake of Allah. So let's continue on here. This is President Trump on Truth Social saying, Bob Unanu, President Donald J. Trump will cement himself as the greatest president in history of this country. Our country was destined for destruction, and he was turning it around. And he is turning it around. This is history in the making. No one has ever done what he is doing, including on the world stage. And absolutely, that is correct. A correct statement there. Now, what we've been looking, of course, at what has been happening in Texas and the atrocity that we saw in Texas. Now, let me see if I can actually pull up something that isn't going to show any violence because of what we are seeing. And here's Laura Loomer saying the Islamic the Islamic terrorist who opened fire on innocent people at a bar in Austin, Texas last night while wearing a shirt that said property of Allah was a fan of real Candace Owens. This Islamic terrorist, who was an immigrant from a Muslim African country, Senegal, obsessively tweeted at me on multiple occasions on my posts that criticized Islam. That's interesting. Wow. It says, in several of his tweets, the Islamic terrorist threatened my life and called me an Israel first bee and told me to move back to Israel. The Islamic terrorists who are now murdering Americans in retaliation for strikes on Iran, which of course we know about these sleeper cells in America under the Biden administration. It says the Islamic terrorists who are now murdering Americans in retaliation for strikes on Iran follow woke Reich podcasters and influencers. I've been reporting this for years, and they've been trying to warn everyone. The woke Reich is an Islamic movement that I have been saying for 2 years now. People need to wake up. It appears he wanted to murder me for speaking truth about Islam. Now, let's go ahead and let me find that clip for you of the picture. And let's see if we can, this is a report here. It's not even a report like a news report, but you see video footage saying breaking the reported Islamic. Oh, here, one sec. Sorry. The reported Islamic shooter in Austin, Texas has been identified as a 53-year-old, and that's his name. I don't know how to pronounce that. It says who wore a property of Allah shirt during the terror attack. Now, this is the image of the man. And of course, he opened fire at a bar. And if you've seen the footage of the inside of this bar, ooh, gosh, this is what jihad is. When the call to jihad, when people begin to see what happens against, and their loyalty to the Islamic faith, this is what they will do. And of course, Austin, or more specifically Texas in general, has been subject to these, these projects that they've been wanting to build. Not specifically the governor or any of the those in the government in Texas have been wanting to establish anything related to Islam or these construction sites that they've been wanting to build. They've been against this. Governor Abbott has been against this and has talked about this on many occasions. And so here's this report here that we're going to look at in a moment. And it says here, scathing report reveals Biden-Harris admin, this is from 2024, has released dozens of migrants on terror watch lists into U.S. And it says exclusive, nearly 100 illegal immigrants on the terror watch list have been released into the United States during the Biden administration, while Border Patrol agents have encountered migrants on the watch list from dozens of different countries. A new House report is revealing. And here's the quote. It says, under the Biden-Harris administration, more than 250 illegal aliens on the terrorist watch list who were encountered by Border Patrol at the southwest border between fiscal years 2021 and 2023, DHS has released into American communities at least 99, with at least 34 others in DHS custody, but not yet removed from the United States. The report by Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee, a copy of which was first obtained by Fox News Digital, says. The staff interim report also found that immigration judges granted bond to at least 27 migrants on the watch list who entered illegally, and that Border Patrol has encountered tens of thousands of migrants on countries that would present national security risks, including 2,134 Afghan nationals. Quite interesting concerning the two enlisted National Guards, I believe they were National Guards, that were killed, American National Guards that were killed in D.C. by an Afghan national. 333,000 Chinese nationals, 541 Iranian nationals, 520 Syrian nationals, and 3,104 Uzbek nationals. Very, very incredible. So this is what we've been seeing here. This is, of course, as a result of the Biden administration and their policies. The reality is when people continue to say on the, and I just referenced it, Jet Fury. If you didn't catch it, this was Fox News Digital or Fox News. And if you clearly have looked at the history, especially under the Biden administration, something that just happened recently, where everybody begins to denounce and begins to forget and begins to say that people weren't illegally crossing over. I mean, maybe you would say that they did or didn't. You know, there were people who were denying this, and then we had to show footage of this. You say, Jay, sleeper cells thrive in sanctuary cities. Yes, absolutely. And here it says we weren't informed about any real motives about what happened in Austin, Texas, when he's clearly wearing it. You think it's some type of coincidence that this is the only shirt he had, the only sweater he had, and put on a property of Allah shirt? Is that like this? I'm not sure if that's what you're referencing here, but this is clearly this is not a coincidence as to what has happened. Now, I want to continue on a further couple of other videos here. This is Keir Starmer delivering remarks concerning this. Let's take a look here for the time being.
Today, I spoke to you about the situation in the Gulf and explained that the United Kingdom was not involved in the strikes on Iran. That remains the case. Over the last 2 days, Iran has launched sustained attacks across the region at countries who did not attack them. They've hit airports and hotels where British citizens are staying. This is clearly a dangerous situation. We have at least 200,000 British citizens in the region, residents, families on holiday, and those in transit. I ask all our people in the region to please register your presence and follow Foreign Office travel advice. I know this is a deeply worrying time, and we will continue to do all we can to support you. Our armed forces, who are located across the region, are also being put at risk by Iran's actions. Yesterday, Iran hit a military base in Bahrain, narrowly missing British personnel. The death of the supreme leader will not stop Iran from launching these strikes. Their approach is becoming even more reckless and more dangerous to civilians. Our decision that the UK would not be involved with the strikes on Iran was deliberate, not least because we believe that the best way forward for the region and for the world is a negotiated settlement, one in which Iran agrees to give up any aspirations to develop a nuclear weapon. But Iran is striking British interests nonetheless and putting British people at huge risk, along with our allies across the region. That is the situation we face today. Our partners in the Gulf have asked us to do more to defend them, and it is my duty to protect British lives. We have British jets in the air as part of coordinated defensive operations, which have already successfully intercepted Iranian strikes. But the only way to stop the threat is to destroy the missiles at source, in their storage depots, or the launchers which are used to fire the missiles. The United States has requested permission to use British bases for that specific and limited defensive purpose. We have taken the decision to accept this request to prevent Iran firing missiles across the region, killing innocent civilians, putting British lives at risk, and hitting countries that have not been involved. The basis of our decision is the collective self-defence of long-standing friends and allies and protecting British lives. That is in accordance with international law, and we are publishing a summary of our legal advice. We are not joining these strikes, but we will continue with our defensive actions in the region.
Which many in the European region and the Middle Eastern region are really just acting in defense. The only ones who are acting in offense is the U.S. and Israel striking directly in Iran and specific military targets. So it's just bogus when we see a lot of these reports, or even the Iranian regime who is reporting that the U.S. or somebody, they're just blaming Israel. Of course, they're just going to blame Israel, but somebody killed these girls in the school. They want people to, rather than admitting that this could possibly a misfire, this is immediately what they say. They just say it's Israel. And so we're only waiting on reports for that to be confirmed, according to what we've seen on BBC, Fox, and ABC. So we're looking at all of it, of course. But we're going to take a look at this clip also. This is a clip from the four-star general who's talking about that Iran wasn't going to change a negotiation, despite negotiations. They weren't going to change their position. Not at all. I'm not sure if that's a question to me. Defending against what exactly? I'm not sure if that was a comment directed at me. Let me know what exactly that question was about. So Israel destroyed every hospital in Gaza. How can you dismiss that? We're talking about the fact that Israel, and a lot of people are just going to dismiss this point. They don't really care. But Israel has, and it's known that the Hamas militia will often, and we saw their base. We cannot forget that they had one of their main operations under the, I forget the hospital name, where they had an elaborate main headquarters where Israel was forced to conduct operations there. Now, the way that they conducted it, we can look back at what they did. However, this is what they did. They dug underground. They were basically living under these underground tunnels. And not only that, would they situate their military bases or these rocket stations near schools, near government buildings. They would do this in order to cause the most type of casualties when it comes to their actions. So when they would shoot or launch rockets, it would be near a school. When they would shoot or launch, some of these rockets, they would also be near government buildings. And so this is known. This is known. This is what Hamas does. This is what Iran does. So the only way to prevent the least amount of casualties, they would, or in order to have the least amount of casualties, they would often contact the business owners, contact the hospitals, contact and get people evacuated and give them as much time before they conducted any type of actions against Hamas when in these areas. And what did we see also with what happened in Tehran, where we saw specifically on the 8th floor, on a specific room where a Hamas leader was taken out? Precision drone strike in that room alone. In that room alone. I think it was a drone strike. If not, it was some type of explosives. I can't remember exactly. But the intel and the precision and what has been done, despite even rockets hitting buildings, are very, very precise when it comes to Israeli action, when it comes to the U.S. action. And when we look at the other side, we look at what Iran has been doing. They don't care where they hit. They just hope they hit. Even if it's their own, they don't care. They're just going to blame it on the other side. They're going to blame Israel. They don't care. They don't care. And so let's check this clip out here.
The administration, as well as Prime Minister Netanyahu, came to the conclusion that despite the success of the 12-day war and Midnight Hammer in taking down a nuclear enterprise, the Iranians weren't about to change who they are and what they intended to do in terms of their objectives. The evidence was clear. They were rapidly recovering their missile program. This is short-range and medium-range missiles. They had a few thousand. They were increasing that by additional thousands, and that became a very dangerous element in of itself. Secondly, they made a decision to recover their nuclear program, but nothing consequential in terms of actions taken, but the intent was there. Third, they began to fuel and support their
And by the way, you say Gaza is all rubble. Not all Gaza is all rubble. They conducted specific strikes in a specific area where they told Gazans to move out of that region. And so when they conducted those strikes, you saw photos, you saw videos of massive amounts of people leaving, and who were the ones blocking them from leaving? Tell me that one. Riddle me that. That was Hamas. They were often looting and reselling to, and somebody actually had posted a video about this because not much of this was coming out, but people were posting videos of Hamas operatives selling back the free humanitarian aid, selling it back. And when what Israel was doing in the IDF, what they were posting on their social media, saying a lot of unclaimed diapers, wipies, formula, all this type of food that could be used for the people in Gaza. What Trump actually had done in order to avoid what the UN was doing, because of how they were taking the majority of it and reselling it. There's so much corruption. You're going to believe that? You're going to believe that over what was actually happening? It's because the left-wing media wants you to think that way. This is what they do. This is how good they are at their messaging concerning this.
Proxies with money and also with weapons and munitions. In other words, Iran, despite the 12-day war and what was done to them, they weren't changing one bit. Their aspirations, their goals, their objectives were going to remain the same despite all the negotiations, the posturing, all the rest of it. So that is number one. And that is why we're doing this. Secondly, is we put, by establishing a condition-based operations, which we're conducting, this could last 2 to 3 weeks based on the conditions. And what are those conditions? Those conditions, we want to set the conditions for a regime collapse. So we're starting with leaders, both civilian and military, and national parliamentarians and military leaders. The results of that will likely take days to sort out. No confirmation yet on the Ayatollah and his son, but yes, they were targeted. But it's so much more than that. It's the entire infrastructure that sustains this regime. That's on the political side in terms of its legislature, all the agencies that support the regime, and on the military security side, the IRGC, the Basel militia, the police infrastructure, the entire defense industrial base, wherever those manufacturing centers are. They intend to deliberately and methodically strip away all this capability that sustains this regime. And if it takes 2 to 3 weeks to do that, so be it. That is the plan. At the same time, taking down their military capability. And what is that? It is largely their short-range and medium-range missiles. They began very weakly in response to the attack, and that surprised us because we thought they were ready and they were going to, as advertised in terms of intelligence, conduct a massive response at U.S. bases and also at the Israelis. Did not happen. But now they are stepping up those attacks. But there's a huge focus on the launchers and the ballistic missile storage sites and the very missiles themselves. And we're killing systems even when they're in a launch position. That's how responsive the Israelis and the Americans are being here. Also, all the naval capability where they can go out and do harm to our ships and also disrupt the Persian Gulf. Those are largely the military targets that are underway here. And I must say, this is a condition-based campaign to set this region on a path, the regime on a path to collapse, in addition to bringing down once and for all their capabilities to do harm in the region. Those are the two things. Another data point for you. Within 3 or 4 days, we'll expect the potential suspects of Qatari, Turkey, Egypt to say we should have a ceasefire. Let's make a deal and have a ceasefire. We'll have politicos in our own country doing the same. We have no casualties as of the time I came on this show, U.S. casualties. We may indeed have some casualties by then. It's expected that we likely will, realistically, in dealing with this regime who does have some capability to retaliate. But what we have to stay focused on, even though these overtures are going to be there, let's stop the fighting, let's stop the killing, is we got to accomplish our military objectives.
Sorry, I went full screen there. Now it's funny because people will say, well, pull up the videos, pull up the images, and look, I'm just doing a little bit of Google search. You look here, you're getting very close up imagery of specific parts of where Gaza was struck. And then you saw video footage, literally video footage from people going live way back then. It's like you begin to have people that have amnesia about this, but they specifically struck and targeted areas. And of course, Gaza is much bigger than you might think, than just small cropped in images of course, some of the massive damage that was done. But a lot of these Palestinians, despite the numbers being reported by Gaza Health Ministry, we've already talked about this, saying 72,000. And this is what actually Bernie Sanders was reporting. We're talking about the Iranian regime. We're talking about the Hamas regime who completely lie about everything. They are, and we've seen the Hamas leaders talk about this propaganda machine, this propaganda, these propagandist talking points, and how they have been effective in having these American students in college campuses push their agenda forward. We've seen these clips, and if you haven't, you just got to go look at some of these top leaders, some who've already been destroyed. And so some of the other data points that I want to bring out here as we close out this broadcast here, this is, let's see here. Let me get this pulled up on my side. Charles, that says, early this morning, Austin was struck by a terrorist attack. Law enforcement sources state that the gunman, a naturalized U.S. citizen born in Senegal, was wearing a Property of Allah sweatshirt when he opened fire, killing 2 innocent people and critically injuring 14 others. He's talking about prayer with the victims and their families and the entire community devastated by this evil act. Terrorism, whether radical, Islamist, or any other hateful ideology, will not be tolerated in Texas. We will not allow these threats to endanger our people and our communities. By the way, this is a senator from Texas. Yesterday, in response to escalating tensions following U.S. actions against Iran's Islamist regime, Governor Abbott directed the Texas Military Department to activate service members under Operation Fury Shield. These forces are now deployed alongside state and federal partnerships to bolster security across our community's southern border and critical infrastructure. In the coming weeks, I will convene a Senate Business and commence committee interim charge hearing to examine vulnerabilities and potential risks posed by hostile foreign entities or ideological threats to Texas electric grid and other critical infrastructure, so that we can advance laws to strengthen protections. And as I have said before, this dangerous pattern of welcoming or tolerating individuals who wish to subvert our civil order and culture, commit attacks of terrorism, that is, import the third world, become the third world, and bring a radical Islam here must be stopped. And people don't seem to understand that. A free society depends on the rule of law, accountability, and respect for innocent life. It is our duty to ensure that those who came here respect these principles in order to protect our state, our people, and our values. Now, when it comes to, actually, this is interesting. This is the Khomeini ex who posted, "In the name of God, the compassionate and the merciful." This was after he has been announced dead. "Among the faithful are men who fulfill what they have pledged to Allah. There are some among them who have fulfilled their pledge, and some of them who still wait." What does that mean? Well, it says, "And they have not changed in the least." This is the Holy Quran. It says 33:23. So they have something to fulfill, something that they pledged to Allah. And of course, that is what we read earlier, jihad against the infidel. This is absolutely incredible. Now, Ilhan Omar, responding to Nancy Mace, who said, "My heart goes out to Ilhan and Rashida Tlaib, sending them thoughts and prayers," with this post that says, "Iran Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei confirmed dead." And she says, "I hope you aren't drunk and took your staff's advice. Rashida and I don't know this man and feel confident he didn't care about us." But she's not condemning anything else that she said. And she's just talking about her being drunk and just being derogatory towards Nancy Mace, saying, "Please refrain from drinking too much as you have been warned from your staff and stay off social media." Well, then we should say, Ilhan Omar, please refrain from opening businesses of wineries when that is against your religion. Oh boy, you're the one to say. "And stay off social media when you are drunk. I pray in this holy month you find peace and respect for yourself." Yourself needs to be together. Anyway, Ilhan Omar coming in clutch with the low IQ. And so, this was the clip that I was trying to show you as far as why they did it.
But if what they want is a secret program buried in the mountain where no one can see it and inspectors can only come when they say they can come, if that's what they want, then they're going to have big problems, because this is a dangerous, violent, radical regime. Not the Iranian people. We have no problem. We didn't hit Iranian people last night. We hit nuclear facilities. And if what they want is some secret program that looks nothing like the civil nuclear programs around the world, it looks a lot like you're trying to build a bomb, they're going to continue to have problems, not just with us, but with many other countries in the world.
Problems like what? What do you mean?
Like the problems they're facing right now. Listen, why do we have bases in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Qatar and UAE? All of those bases are there to help protect those countries from Iran. Why did Hezbollah exist? Because of Iran. What does Hamas exist? Because of Iran. How do the Houthis exist? Because of Iran. Who built the IEDs that maimed and killed American soldiers in Iraq? Iran. They're behind every problem in this region. They are the sole source of instability in the entire Middle East, and the world's been paying a price for this for 40-something years. Imagine those people having a nuclear weapon, just one nuclear weapon, or even the capability to being on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon. That's what the world was facing. That is unacceptable. President Trump did the world a favor last night, and now Iran should sort of wake up, the Iranian regime should wake up and say, okay, if we really want nuclear energy in our country, there's a way to do it. That offer's still there. We're prepared to talk to them tomorrow and start working on that. Steve Woodcock has traveled extensively around the world trying to reach that deal with them, but they play too many games. They play way too many games, and now they've found out.
They found out the hard way, and that's the reality of the Iranian regime. They want to, pretend that they're the toughie in the big bad Middle East, giant. When you see a 300 square mile small country by the name of Israel, who has shown more strength than Iran ever will. And that's just the reality of it. Now, do we condone every action that the Israeli government has done? No, we don't condone every single action that they have done. And of course, we want to hold them accountable just as we do accountable our own government. And it's funny because we continue to have people that want to so badly get Trump on something when it comes to the Epstein files. They keep bringing that up. And it's just getting ridiculous at this point because we have seen that the exoneration that has happened with the uncredible reports against Trump continue to show otherwise, that he had no doing or no part of this, and even the fact that he was the one that reported Epstein. And we have Bill Clinton lying, possibly lying under oath, who knows? But otherwise, what he's saying and what he's said in the last couple of hearings, the depositions with both Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, have pretty much exonerated Trump. So what you take for that, who knows? Take it with a grain of salt. Maybe you don't care. Maybe you care. You want to have your own point of view. That's fine by me. Let's end this poll here. It looks like it's been going on for quite some time. 743 votes. Seems like we got enough in. If you want to get your votes in at the last moment, by all means, this is the do you approve of this action against Iran? What are the repercussions of this? Will we see this war continue on further? As Trump said, we are willing to go for 4 to 5 weeks. Will this continue to press on in the coming days, in the coming weeks? How much more will this progress? What's interesting is if Iran still is vowing such an incredible response to this action done by the U.S. and Israel, we haven't seen anything, and I hope we don't. Honestly, I hope we don't see any more casualties of American citizens. I hope we don't see any more casualties of other nations when it comes to what Iran is doing. And of course, we want there to be peace in the region, and we don't want any more of this war, any more of this ongoing nonsense done by the Islamic regime. And of course, we do want to see the Iranian people free, the Persian people, we should say, free from tyrannical regime of the mullahs and the supreme leader that would step in this case. And so there's a lot of things. And if you don't think that the U.S. Administration or anybody that is involved in this hasn't thought of the repercussions and have gone through every scenario, well, look, then you got to be a little ignorant here, because they've weighed out what could happen. And they have intel that we don't have. And, they're going to conduct operations, and they're going to do what they need to do to continue to remove the people that are radical, as people say. Well, there's more, as Sarah Jacobs actually said, that how do we know that there's not going to be somebody more radical? Well, they will eliminate the more radical person based on their background, based on what they are. And so this is not a sort of unknown thing to the United States government. And of course, the people like Sarah Jacobs and the whole team there at MS Now think, well, this is a pretzel that they're doing, that Trump ended the war, the 47-year war. And the reality is they don't want to face reality. This is who they are. They love believing in the lie. They love hating against Trump for whatever reason. They hate to see America prosper. And that involves some of the harsh decisions that Trump has to make. Now, do we agree with absolutely everything? Well, we can criticize where we want to criticize. However, people have shown that much on this broadcast. So if you want to support this show, by all means, hit the subscribe button. And of course, like the show if you would do so. And let's continue with this conversation. We're going to be keeping you posted on this Iranian war and everything that is happening with this. This obviously was something that was building up to be what it currently is. And finally, this is what the sort of this is the sort of outcome that we're seeing right now. And ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised with everything that we're seeing, where I don't even know if anyway, we've been seeing where they are targeting. They're targeting in the old city of Jerusalem. It would be interesting that if there was a sort of strike on the Dome of the Rock, that would set a huge, complete, precedent in that area concerning the temple, it would, whatever. I don't know. There's a lot here. There's a lot to say here concerning where they are targeting, concerning where Iran has said they're targeting, and of course the casualties that may arise out of this. And I think we need to most certainly keep these Americans in prayer, keep the Israelis in prayer, and keep the nations around the head of the octopus, as we call it, the Iranian regime that has been toppled. So I'll see you guys in the next live show, and we'll be continuing to cover this again, as I said before. God bless you, and God be with you. And if you guys are interested in subscribing, by all means, do so. And I'll leave this chat open a little bit longer for debate as you guys continue on to finish up your conversations, and we'll let you do that for the meantime. So I appreciate you guys' conversations and your candor. Thank you. Oh, let's end this poll, actually. So 52%, 782. It's still climbing. We're going to end the poll right now. 52% say yes, and 48% say no. And you say you're going to watch Candace Owens interview or documentary about Erica Kirk. Honestly, is it worth even watching? Is it worth giving her more money? Is it worth any of that? I don't know. I don't even know. Because it's like, what more can she possibly provide out of it's probably just going to be the same information that she's already shared, except probably with just an edited, I don't know. I think she released it on February 25th, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean, really, like, it's probably just a glorified video apart from her podcast. So she had to spin something to, I don't know. I want to believe that's probably what it is. It's just ridiculous. She said herself, if Erica tells me to stop, I'm gonna stop. Did she stop? She did not stop. You say I push propaganda. What is the propaganda that I push? Because Candace Owens is going based on a lot of non-evidence, a lot of anonymous tips, a lot of, not even tips, not even that, anonymous testimony. Gosh, it's just like ridiculous how people begin to believe in her lies. Her problem is with Israel. Her problem is with Erica. Her problem is with everybody else other than herself and her point of view. She makes hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars concerning that. You say, love Trump from Tehran. Wow, amazing. God bless you. That's cool. You say, the same with the terrorists that make up Palestine. Your nose pierced blue, died teacher told you that Palestinians are good just so you can run with it. What's going on there? You say you like Candace, but she's gone off the rails since Charlie. She had no, I mean, what content? This is the interesting thing too. What content was she doing prior to this? Like an Alex Jones type. You say, why is Erica banned from Romania? What? I mean, how is that? Is that even confirmed? Beauty disaster. You say, what is going on? I'm just answering questions at the end of this live show or statements or whatever. You say, when you say she lies, name one. Well, first we can talk about all of the reporting she did at the very beginning of the Charlie Kirk assassination. She began to create all these different types of theories, and she ran with a lot of them. For us to go through and break down all of these, we already talked about the lie that she said at the first, that if Erica tells her to stop, she'll stop. She didn't stop. That's a lie. She didn't stop. She made a statement and she didn't follow through with that statement. That's already a lie. And the fact that she's talking about the Israelis had something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. Where's the evidence for that? There's no evidence for that. Or even Egypt, about these Egyptian planes, when this has already been debunked. She did an investigation is absolutely a wild statement. What she did was she just ran with a bunch of unverified claims. She has no official sources other than anonymous people that don't have any type of background in anything regarding investigative work. Look, to be honest, in order to go through, it would be like a whole podcast dedicated to looking at every single claim and just literally going. You say, who ran with claims about what? Erica? Candace Owens. Candace Owens ran with claims about Charlie, about Erica, concerning texts that were out of context, concerning all of this stuff. And she, having this private meeting, immediately goes on to her podcast, which again, I'm sure they knew what she was going to do. They didn't think that she was going to stay quiet about their meeting. They probably knew exactly. They probably knew exactly what Candace was going to do after they had their meeting. They knew she was going to go online. They weren't going to reveal all their cards. They weren't going to say everything that they were thinking. Of course, they were going to say, to each other, everything's on the table. You can ask any question by all means. But obviously, there was probably, as even Erica had pointed out, you're not going to reveal your cards. This is concerning a specific context to that claim that I'm telling you of what Erica said about something in specific. So I think it's important that you just go and look at what Erica Kirk has said. So a lot of people are going to listen to what Candace Owens has said, but they won't listen to what Erica Kirk has said, or they won't even listen to what Turning Point has said themselves. And so if you're only doing that specifically, where you're just looking at what Candace Owens is doing and looking at what she's pulling for her context or for her content, is a lot of lack of context. Yeah, and you're right, Beauty Disaster. You say, I don't even know what to think because people make stuff up all the time. That's just the nature of the world we live in, apparently. Yeah, currently with the course of social media, gosh, there's so much deception. So much deception. People that want to cause division. And we see that a lot on X. And this is why they had to, this is why Elon listened to his audience, and he put basically where these accounts were based in. And a lot of them were from outside of the country. I'm saying her theories are theories. I'm not saying her theories are lies. She does lie, but I'm saying that you're saying, by the way, I never said theories. I said her claims or her, what she's said as definitive evidence, I should say, where she's using sources that are anonymous, sources that we don't even follow. I think, look, I'll just give you somebody who's been following this stuff very closely. If you want to look at the other side and actually sort of come to a sort of a middle ground here to figure out what is true and what isn't true, a man by the name of Ruslan KD has been doing an incredible job, and more than I could speak of because I'm not following this closely because her rhetoric is just terrible. Her claims and the stuff that we saw from the very beginning, the clips that we see, just bad. And so Ruslan has been doing an excellent job concerning that. And if I could have him on the show, I would, but he has a fee to be on shows. So I'm not that big of a podcast to provide fees for interviews. Anyway, or to pay the fees for interviews, online interviews, that is. Let's see here. And of course, I would like to do that. So the support of this show, if anybody also wants to support via super chat is always welcomed. Of course, we'll read those at a priority basis as they come in, and happened yesterday where somebody wanted to talk about the yarmulkes, which I believe they're referring to the Jews because it's the hat that they wear during the Sabbath. And so let's see here. Quality Leering Center. Yeah, we can't forget that. Yeah. So somebody also asked, what do we think about Nick Shirley's investigation? I think his investigation was quite good for a YouTube video. From the 47 minutes that is online, you're seeing a lot of other footage that probably just had to be cut out because you can't post for the sake of YouTube and attention span, you're not going to just post an unedited video and the stuff that is in between. It's all edited for the sake of keeping the attention there. And there's a lot of context that they probably, some stuff that they might have left out that they probably should have left in. Who knows? But they provided receipts. They went to these businesses. People are talking about the fact that they went after hours. However, Nick has clearly proven otherwise. And many others online have also proven otherwise. And people that have done their own research concerning what was happening in Minnesota. That's a wild statement. You say, good, it was lackluster. Bro shows up with cameras and wants to bust into daycare and see children. Actually, that is not what he wanted to do. First of all, he also wanted to literally enroll somebody into these daycare centers. And obviously, if you know, this is just such common sense that even if you have children in your video, if they're not, if their identity is not concealed or whatever, you have to have the parents' permission. This is specifically stated in YouTube's guidelines for any time that you have children present in the video. You have to make sure that you notify YouTube via the option that you need to select, that if there's any children in this, that you have to have permission from the parent. This is ridiculous. And so if one is willingly doing that without posting, then they're in violation of YouTube's policies. And of course, that is up to him to fight that via legal case. You say he attempted to enroll after showing up with a camera crew to the center. Have you seen the camera that he uses? And maybe even a phone? Phones are really good. Do you think he's got a whole camera crew of people? You got one person that would be recording him, and not even this big old camera that's standing there. Obviously, that would be very obvious. It's like, just think through these things for a second. It was a GoPro and then also phone footage. But how do you know definitively? How do you know if you're saying it wasn't a phone? How do you know definitively it wasn't a phone? Because we've seen videos of people recording Nick Shirley and he has a small little camera on his person. And you can easily remove that camera, that GoPro that is yay big, right? And just hold it in your hand. Anyway, we're debating this, like literally we're debating. And, you know, I want to reach out to Nick and if anybody even knows him, probably nobody does in this chat. Who knows? Maybe you guys do have a connection. Have him on the show. We'll have him talk about this stuff because he even covered California concerning some of the fraud. And anyway, all right, guys, we're going to end the broadcast here. If you guys want to continue this debate and whatever you guys are finishing up, by all means, I'll let the chat go in a little bit longer. So I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless you. And of course, subscribe to the podcast. Let's continue to get the word out and to continue seeing the coverage that we are seeing on all of this. So I appreciate you guys for joining me. I appreciate you guys for being here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.